Now I'm going to deal with substitution with another example where all the coefficients are not 1 or -1. I've got these 4 variable terms, 3x, 2y, 9x, and -8y. And I need to pick one of these to tackle. Now, I could pick 3x, which would, in the end, I'm going to divide everything by 3, so I'd end up with a -2/3 somewhere in there and a 1. So that's not too horrible. Or I could pick this 2y. I'm not going to pick 9x or -8y because both of those are going to involve divided by 9 or divided by 8 at some point, or -8, I should say. In this one, I divide both by 2. I'd end up with a -3/2 x and a 3/2. Now, that's actually not too horrible to work with, so I'm actually going to choose that one. I'd actually rather choose halves than thirds if I can help it. So I'm going to be working with this equation. I'm going to copy that over here into my workspace. It's very important with these problems to give yourself some room. I'm putting parentheses around the y to remind myself that that's what I'm solving for. I'm going to isolate that variable. My first step is to get rid of stuff that's around it, like the 3x. So minus 3x, and then I'm going to have a minus 3x here, and that becomes 3x minus 3x is 0, and I'm left with 2y equals -3x plus 3. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2, divide that by 2, and I have to divide every single part of this by 2. I could express that by dividing them both by 2 all at once, but I'm going to do it this way so it's really clear. So I'm left with y on this side, and over here I've got -3/2 x plus 3/2. And that's what I'm going to be replacing y with in the other equation. Now my other equation, I'm putting that here. So I'm going to copy that other equation down into workspace here. I'm going to put parentheses here to remind myself that y is what I was working with, and y is what I'm going to be replacing with -3/2 x plus 3/2. Okay, and it looks like this is going to work out rather nicely, because if I multiply, my next step is I'm going to have to clear out this parentheses by distributing this -8 times everything. I shall type in the 9x because that stays there. -8 times -3/2. The neat thing about that is I'm going to get rid of a denominator. So I'm going to pre-reduce there. -8 becomes -4. The 2 in the denominator goes away. This 2 in this denominator will also go away if I factor out 2 from the top. So I'm going to end up with -4 times -3, which is not negative, but it's positive 12x. And then I'm going to do again negative, instead of -8, I'm going to be doing -4. Actually, I should type that in here so I can show you what I've actually done. Make sure you can see that. So I'm going to factor a 2 out of here and factor a 2 out of here. So that just becomes 3/1. And I did the same here, so that became 3/1. And this is much easier to deal with. So once again, I got -4 times -3x equals 12x. And -4 times 3 equals 12. So minus 12. And that equals -2. It looks a whole lot neater than I thought it was going to. So let's see what we get. I've got to combine my like terms. 9x and 12x makes 21x. Put them together. Minus 12 equals -2. Now I'm going to get rid of my -12 by adding 12 to both sides. And I'm going to end up with 21x equals 10. Now I've got to divide both sides by 21. And this is going to get uglier. Divided by 21. And I end up with x equals 10/21. Okay, so I've got a value for x. I'm going to take that value for x, I'm going to go and plug it in to my simplified version of y equals. So I'm going to copy that over into my workspace down here. I know x equals 10 21st, so I'm going to multiply that 10 over 21, replace x with that. So now I'm going to solve for this. So negative 3 halves times 10 over 21. The nice thing about that is this negative 3 is going to cancel out with the 21. I factor 3 out here. I factor 3 out here. This becomes a 7. So I get equals negative 1/2 times 10 over 7 plus 3 halves. And now I'm going to get negative 10 over 14 is what I get when I multiply negative 1/2 times 10 sevenths plus 3 halves. I need to express 3 halves with a common denominator, but and I could go ahead and turn that into 5 sevenths, but that's not going to help me because I'm going to be multiplying 2 in the denominator here by 7 again anyway. So I'm going to get negative 10 over 14 plus, I'm multiplying top and bottom by 7, so that's 21 over 14, and I'm going to end up with 11 over 14 for y. So my solution is, I go back up, remind myself that x equals 10 21st, and y equals 11 14ths.